Welcome back to the Morning Toast. We are so excited to be sitting down with Austen and Kroll from Southern Charm, Winter House, and a little bit of Summer House.
He made a small appearance, huge impact.
Small but mighty. Yeah. Hi, Austen.
Hello, ladies. So good to see you.
So good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us here in New York. You're here for what? The Bravo Upfronts?
We were here for Bravo Upfronts, yeah. Which I didn't know what that meant. Do y'all know what that means?
Yeah,
yes,
we used to work
in the B2B world,
okay.
So we are familiar with upfronts. But I also feel like as a Bravo star, if you get invited to the upfronts to like be part of the front-facing people, like that's a big sign.
It's an honor.
It's an honor because not everyone gets to go.
So that is something that I was thinking about too. Something that late night I was with Sandoval, we like would end up out at, like outside of the hotel, just chatting about everything. You know, he's a chatter, and like that thought. He was like, bro, we're here. They asked for us to be here. And I was like,
special.
Okay. You know, and so with everything going on, I was like, yeah, they asked me to be here.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
A good sign.
Who else was there? Who else is good for their next season?
From Charm, it was me and Shep. I think that Craig was supposed to be there as well, but Craig had his 1-year anniversary of his store on King Street on Saturday.
We're sitting on Sewing Down South pillows.
I was going to ask you if these were SDS pillows.
They're fabulous.
Yeah.
Really good.
Okay,
There's nothing
Craig,
wrong with his
I'm leaning
sewing.
on 2 of your pillows if you're listening.
They're really nice.
A lot of support.
So you were the topic of conversation on many reality shows recently, most notably Summer House, which is crazy because you were on like 2 episodes total.
I was there for 48 hours.
Right. And the whole
I was there
season
for
is
48
about
hours.
you.
Yeah.
And I didn't watch any of it, but of course I have people that do, and they tell me about it, and then you see some backlash about it, and I was shocked at the repercussions or just how much that I was on it.
Right.
And like chose to use me and like take other main cast members that were very much there
Yeah.
Right.
and make it seem like they weren't there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I guess that I just didn't know because my first day there, I was very tame, right? And like I was like, Austen, keep it together. Because I was supposed to go when Craig went the first weekend.
Yes.
We learned this at the reunion a little bit.
Okay.
And then
Yes,
Carl told you not to go because it would be thirsty to be on 3 shows.
No,
that
that's
true?
not true. I wish that he would have because I was looking for any sign
Not to go.
Because when Craig first went, you know, it was like we had been on Winter House, and so they wanted like, you know, the Austen Craig package to go. You know, him and Paige were like just beginning to talk, right? It wasn't like a full-blown thing. He was, you know, excited to go and see her. And so I was like, I don't know, man. I'm just like, my headspace is not right. I'm really not feeling it. I really don't know if I want to be on camera right now. So I didn't go. And then Lindsay, you know, we're talking as, I mean, we should talk all the freaking time. And she was like, it's my birthday. Come. We're going to have a blast. And I got to thinking, I was like, well, you know, it's Lindsay's birthday. I'm going to be able to go and like have fun in the Hamptons, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't that sound like fun?
That does sound like fun with your friends.
You know, normally that sounds fun.
Yeah.
And she texted me the other day after part 1 of the reunion, and she was like, remember when I called you and told you it was going to be so much fun for you to come to the Hamptons? She goes, I'm so sorry that all this nonsense is happening to you. And I was like, oh my gosh, Lindsay, it's never ending.
Yeah.
And she was like, that seems like, you know, 1.5 years ago, because it was 1.5 years ago.
Did they ask you to go to the reunion?
No.
No. So you haven't really had a chance. A lot has been spoken about you. You haven't really spoken on it. You have been, you know, dragged quite a bit for how you handled Sierra, how you handled Lindsay, and just like that 48-hour time in the house. So I guess my question for you is, what do you feel like wasn't said? Like, what do you feel like people are misunderstanding about you? Because I think you feel like you've been kind of sidelined and trashed.
It's emotional.
It's emotional. It's emotional.
Just clearing my throat just to make sure that this is well heard. It's just, you know, going to a show that you're not a cast member of, you don't get the green screen. You don't get to show up the weekend after and like apologize.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get to you don't get your, you know, redemption, so to speak.
Yeah.
And especially couldn't go to the reunion. And yeah, I mean, you're right. I haven't said much about the topic because Summer House was like such a trigger word for me, and like I hate to say it and like admit it, but it was just like, no, well, the thing that you don't know is.
What is the thing we don't
and
know?
like I, am now very like, you know what, like we are moving onwards and upwards, but just like having your narrative said for you is very frustrating, right? It's very frustrating, and I guess that what it is in a nutshell is that, so it was last summer. I was like 5 to 6 months, like officially, single. I'd moved on, from something that wasn't the greatest. And I was like, I am having fun and I'm single and I'm allowed to do, this and that. And I, was I like selfish in my like, hot boy summer, right? Quote unquote. Yes. And I realized that in hindsight. I realized that, very soon thereafter, there was like an apology, where like I was able to speak to everyone. It just wasn't, used, which is.
Who did you apologize to?
Sierra.
Got it. Okay.
I was able to, pull her aside and have a convo and, and really talk to her about, I understand. Like I guess that I didn't realize that her and Lindsay were like.
Beefy.
At odds. They just don't have a good relationship. And then to see you with her must have drove Sierra crazy.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so, Lindsay never really told me that her and Sierra weren't, that tight, right? Because, Lindsay isn't like that. She's not like, F that person or whatever.
Right.
She was just like, so when I came, Sierra was like, okay, well, you're not going to be in her bed. And I was like, I wasn't planning on it.
Right.
I totally wasn't planning on it. I think that I'm going to like, sleep in Andrea's bed or something. So like, I guess that I just didn't know. And then on Lindsay's birthday, all hell broke loose because I just decided to drink a bunch of tequila. And we were sitting in Lindsay's room prior to, the party. And we were just talking to each other. And I was like, and she was like, fuck everything, right? Let's just have fun. And I was like, yes, I love that mentality. And this was before Winter House had aired too. So I didn't get to see like what the reactions were from like me and Sierra or me and Lindsay maybe. And so I was flying blind from like what had happened or what was going to be shown on Winter House. So then it just like, it just kept on snowballing.
Yeah. Do you feel like you make decisions on the show, on any of the shows that you're on, based on how people react on social media? Like, does it inform your decision making at all?
No, and I'm going to say no in the sense, no and yes. So like, yes in the sense that when you see yourself get like, worked up on someone, right? And then you watch it and maybe see like a social media, like, oh my, then you sit back and you're like, Austen, keep it together. Like if someone's yelling, like let them yell as much as you possibly can before you. So like I try to keep my emotions in check more, right? After like having seen some things where I've been, like emotional or whatever, because it's not an attractive quality to watch, anyone, yelling and huffing and puffing.
No,
but
it must be really jarring.
Positive, but to be able to learn from yourself, like most people can't see themselves and they don't ever get the perspective of, being outside of the moment and getting to watch their reaction. So that's like a good thing. But as long as it's not informing like how you live your life based on like what people are going to think.
No. I mean, look, I couldn't if I tried, to like be different. Like I'm not going to show up one day and be like a buttoned up, like, James Bond. Like, okay, now I've changed.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
Well, I think like the major takeaway from the Summer House reunion between Sierra and Lindsay was like, it's Austen's fault pretty much. Like it was, and you really never got to speak for yourself.
No, I'm so I didn't watch the reunion. I was certainly shocked to like hear a bunch of things, right? A bunch of people just like, hurling my name around. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah, but there's also like a lot of things that you like said or maybe influenced that had nothing to do with the Lindsay Sierra stuff, more to do with like Kristen and Craig and Paige. And when you told Lindsay that information and when she told it to Paige.
Oh, right. Okay, interesting.
Right, I forgot about that.
Oh my gosh. How much were we used on this season? So, this is one of those things too, where Craig says, and he's been telling everyone that like, we didn't talk for 3 months because of X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, that's just not true. Craig and I were still podcasting. It was just kind of walking on eggshells. It's not that we weren't talking.
Yeah.
And Craig thinks or thought, Craig thought that like I was like maliciously trying to like tell Lindsay some information, which I don't know if it was then when like she was driving to the Hamptons or not. But you know, to me, it doesn't matter. The way that Craig said it to me was that I said to Lindsay, like, hey, if you want to fuck with Craig,
right,
you know, here's some info. And I was like, Craig, I would never do that. Like,
but that is how it came off.
I was like, you're single and I want you to flourish, pal. I
Right.
really do. It's just that a friend called me and was like, hey, is it you or is it him?
Right.
And I was like, it's not me.
We all thought
We
it was
all-
you.
and
I
we
know
all
that.
wanna know.
Because, by the way, like at dinners and things, I would like sit next to
Yeah.
her on purpose to like
Right.
Throw everyone off.
And you guys were all friends.
And then I was getting the like, you know, brunt of it. And I'm like, and then that's when I realized I was like, being like a Bravo level famous is fun. Being like a higher level, stressful as all
Yeah.
hell. Like when all that was happening, I was like, oh my gosh, like didn't realize that your level of fame was like
Right.
up here.
Yeah.
So do you really feel like a lot of the negative sentiments about you are due partly to your own actions, which you've taken responsibility for, but also because you really just weren't given a platform
To make it right.
To
Like-
like you weren't given confessionals, you weren't given an opportunity at the reunion, and you think if you were, like, people would have seen your side a little bit more?
And I think people might have had an easier time moving on because it's a story, it evolves, and now we're talking about next weekend.
Sure. So certainly not like absolved, right? It's not like, oh man, if I would have been on there, but like I just like I had, you know, remorse for it, and I had like, look, I'm just trying to learn and grow, and like I'm going to learn and grow from this, but I never had the opportunity to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's all that people kind of want to see is like taking accountability for your actions,
Yeah.
and knowing that you did something, and then moving forward
Right.
and what they're going to see, and so that's what's been so interesting because I've been now on. Sure, I've been overexposed. Like I've been overexposed. Like sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, well now it's this show and then this, which turned into something huge. And those have been vacation shows.
Yeah.
They haven't been shows about, you know, my real life and like what I'm doing with my business or
Right.
like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, personal life. Well, of course I have a personal life, but you know, personal life, you know, back in Charleston.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, showing me like, you know, my business and purchasing a home and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. It's just been shows about purely vacation.
And relationships.
And so it's tough to be painted in a positive light. Not that I do myself any favors,
Right.
That's fair.
but you know, when there's no like, okay, well, let's now see him like, you know, going to work on Monday or
Right.
something, or,
Right.
or like, you know, figuring out this or doing this or, you know, progressing in his life. It's like, let's see Austen come in like a tornado and
Right.
you know, rip apart the house for 48 hours.
And then leave.
And then leave.
Right.
And then
Never
leave.
to be heard from
Never
again.
to be heard from again. Right.
Right. So that has been super interesting. But I'll tell you what, Craig and I went on tour, on a podcast tour.
I know. I heard you guys spoke about me. Somebody sent
From
me a
her
clip.
April Fool's clip.
Craig
of
believed
saying
my April Fool's joke.
she
I
was
got him.
Demois.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like, best prank ever. It was Jackie's idea.
I was sitting on the plane and Craig was across the aisle from me and I was like, Craig. I was like, Claudia is Dumois. And then his like eyes kind of went wide and he was like, dude, it's April Fool's. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot.
I
So,
love
yes.
that. I love that. But yes, you went on tour.
And our very first stop was DC. And of course we had like a loose kind of like thing of what we wanted to do. And at first we were like, okay, so maybe at this point we'll bring on, you know, some fans to play like a, you know, dating game. They'll bring on fans here and they'll do like a Q&A. And immediately when we walked out, right, because it was like a week or so after the episode had aired, and we were like, you know, I don't know what to expect. Like we decided to go out, you know, together so that no one had any sort of opportunity to like boo me maybe, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, but once again, like it's like BravoCon, like people are buying money to come and see you.
So they're your fans.
Right.
They're
Yeah,
not
well, you know,
haters.
they
To
should
pay
be,
money
right?
to come throw tomatoes is
Is insane.
crazy, but
Okay.
people are
People-
crazy.
Okay,
People
but trust
have done
me,
it.
I actually thought the first, you know, show, I was like, what if a tomato gets thrown at me? I
No,
like
we-
actually
I've been
had
there.
that thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, of course. But you know what? Okay, so now I guess the better question is like, where do you stand with Lindsay and with Sierra?
Okay. So with Lindsay, we spent, you know, the whole weekend together, right? I mean, in terms of just like, you know, seeing each other and texting each other and like, you know, having chats, and, you know, we're as good as can be. Our relationship is certainly evolved, which it should, because now she has Carl in her life,
Right.
and now Carl is, you know, her person, and I couldn't be happier for him. I could not be happier for him. And so of course it has to change, right? It can't be like, that waking up every day and calling each other.
It's not
kind of
healthy,
thing that
yeah.
we used to. So, we're fine. Sierra is definitely something that you're going to have to watch on, because what's so interesting is that we filmed for Winter House and then they filmed for the Summer House reunion.
Yeah, and you can
And
tell.
so it's just like this series of events from how she felt on Summer does not match up to how she's acting on the reunion.
Got it.
Yes, but we said that you can tell, and even there seems to be some strife between Paige and Lindsay that is like they're not even mentioning it, but it was extremely tense, and nothing that we saw this season on Summer House warrants that. So you can tell that like there's this other show that happened in between, because everybody's dynamics have really changed.
I mean, yeah. So that is so interesting too, because there were things where it was like, I don't want to divulge too much, but it's like, there were things where the cast was like, well, our reunion is in 2 weeks, so we're not gonna dive into this here,
Right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Oh, interesting.
Got it. The schedule
Right?
was like a little facade.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many things going on. Plus, last night, then at the end of the reunion, we got the trailer for Southern Charm.
Oh yeah.
Which looks
So
so
good.
good.
Yeah.
And what are you and Craig fighting about?
Ba-ba-dee-dee-dee, ba-ba-doo. I love that fucking song. It's so good.
It is good. What's the
Craig
fight
and
about?
I.
Is that a
my
real
gosh.
fight?
Oh my god, no. But yes and no, right? So Craig and I fight like brothers. It's just like what we do. And at this point, we're great, but so we.
You are a complicated fella.
Okay, so we're literally just after dinner drunk, and
Right.
Craig and I are like, okay, so Craig is like a wrestler, right? And I'm more of like a, I'm gonna throw you or something. And I was like, Craig, stop it, and he is tuned up.
Got
and I'm
it.
like, get away from me, Craig. I'm gonna punch you in the face, but I'm not gonna punch him in the face
Right.
because that's just going over the line. And so then he gets a hold of me and we just go down. And the only language that Craig speaks in that moment is tapping out. So I had to
Got it. Got it.
I was like, leave me alone,
That's
Craig.
good. Okay.
Okay.
And that it wasn't a real fight. Have you ever been on the show before? No, right? This is your first time?
On this show?
Yeah.
I think
Yes,
so.
yes, it is.
Okay, because I ask every Southern Charm person this question, and I will never not think it's weird. And one of my main takeaways from the from the trailer, is, all these people, best friends in Charleston, dinners and trips and fights and relationships, and Patricia. And I will just truly never understand how more people don't think it's weird that there's this old sophisticated woman hanging out with you guys. And honestly, she was the main character of the trailer. She was in it more than anyone else.
Really?
Yes.
And I think what bothers us most about her presence, even though these days it's better, it's in the past and even before your time, she's really been on the wrong side of history about a lot of things with the cast members, and everybody just respects and trusts her opinion so much that it's I just feel for Catherine.
It's the word of God
yeah,
when she was
yeah,
wrong.
Yeah.
But what, when you guys all go out to dinner and you're like, oh, you're calling your mom or something, yeah, hey, I'm going to dinner at this old lady's house. To me, it just reads so weird. You're a group of friends who are all of a certain age, and then you all go to parties at this woman's house. It's so weird to me.
Yeah.
And it's never spoken about. So that my question is what?
Wait, and also, is it because she really is that presence in all of your lives, or is it because the Bravo universe loves her being this presence? So we're gonna do more of it.
Okay, so I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
And the fact that she was used as much as she was on Schiller, does not surprise me at all. In fact, it makes me happy because people like to see it. She wasn't in the cast photo, as she never is,
Right.
And so then when she's not in the cast photo, people start to freak out, oh my god, is she not on the show?
Right.
And it's no, y'all, rest assured, Patricia's back.
Right.
Okay.
And,
She's always back.
and so I just know what happened, right? Because you ask Whitney, and he's like, it's a nightmare. and he's like, dude, my mother is on the show.
She's the star.
I mean, as close as they are.
Right.
He's like, dude, imagine if your mom was on the show.
Yeah.
No, there's something just inherently odd about it.
I think just people really love her, so they put her in more. And she does have this way about her, and she's very iconic and Charleston.
And she
Charlestonian.
does not. So it's when you go to her home, the last thing that everyone wants to be on their P's and Q's. If there's a conversation that she doesn't want to talk about or have a part of, she's like, excuse me, and she walks away,
right?
From you, literally. I remember last season.
Mid-sentence.
I remember last season or 2 seasons ago, whenever Naomi was on it, she was like, Patricia, can we talk? And she was like, no, darling, you know, and kind of like walked away.
Yeah. No, she's definitely an interesting character, but like, you know, as a normal person, it's like if me and my friends were all hanging out and then we like went to a party at some old lady's house, like it would be weird. And she's not some old lady. She's like an iconic South Carolinian figure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that I have thought of that a few times.
It's weird.
But like she embodies exactly what the show should be about.
Yes.
Old Southern, you know, debonair.
Yes.
But it's the same way that like Lisa Vanderpump was like always around the Vanderpump Rules kids, but like it made sense. Like she was their boss. Like there was a connection. And sometimes it just feels like, oh, we're going to Patricia's house. Like it just feels odd.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, she has the old South way about her and like, you know, her advice and kind of like, you know, you've said, and I'm sorry, you know, Miss Patricia, but many times we've talked about it and it's like, she was wrong about this, that, this.
But what she says
you know,
goes.
Yeah.
And then she was besties with Catherine.
Right.
And then now not. You
Right.
know, and it's and so it's certainly been an interesting thing where it's like, wait, well, you took Landon under your wing. How
Right.
did that work out?
Right.
You took Thomas under your wing, and how did that work out?
Right. That's so true.
It's certainly been that way, but I mean, she, you know what? She's always been kind and like, you know, open arms to
Generous.
me. Well, you know, she's had some like, you know, claps on me.
Yeah.
Right. But you know, you'll certainly, you know, watch and.
I want to switch gears really quickly because like you literally can't fart without like it being made into like a TikTok. I saw like a rumor that you're dating Tayshia. Do you want to clear that up?
That's so funny. I mean, so Tayshia and I just did Watch What Happens Live
Yes.
together, right? Well, not just, but I'm saying just is like
Recently.
that is the extent of it, right?
it.
And
Got
so
it.
then I see her out, and Shep's girlfriend Taylor was like, Austen, I think that's Tayshia behind you, and I was like, is it? And I was like, hey, and so she had come to meet up with like our crew, and no, Tayshia and I are not dating.
You should think about it. She's a great girl.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so much fun, and you know we had a blast that
Beautiful.
day. But it was just like, let's take like a pic together because we did Watch What Happens Live together.
Got it.
That's what I thought, but everyone made a whole thing
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, and you know the views on my IG, I was like, oh, what's good? I was
Right.
like 200,000 views, huh? Okay,
Damn.
all right. What the hell just happened?
Another Southern Charm question. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is Madison not in the cast photo? I did not see her. Is she a cast member? She was on the trailer.
She is on the show. She's on the show. I have no idea why she's not in the poster.
Oh, that's
Okay.
weird.
See, Shep's cousin, her name is Marcy. She, you know, a great girl. It also was casted, and she's not in the cast photo. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I have no idea. But you know, you obviously saw her in the trailer. So
Yeah.
you know that she's around.
And she's getting married. She just bought a house.
Yeah. Or see, I don't know. I know the engagement thing, of course.
Wait, do you not follow her on Instagram?
No.
Well, she bought a house. It's really nice. Happy for her. Are you single right now?
So, God, what
What a simple question.
don't
Yeah.
even sugarcoat
You
it.
are
Just
literally like
ask it.
every simple question. It's like, well, where do I begin?
Yeah, no, seriously, but where do I begin? So this whole like a new girl, Olivia, that's on the show. We definitely our paths are intertwined the entire time, and it's like fresh on the heels of summer, right? And so what I will say is that and not that she gives a shit about what happened in summer, but what I'm saying is that in the sense where I'm like still kind of like single mode, and so I'm trying to like figure out this situation
Got
because she's such a wonderful girl that I'm like,
Great.
how are you? So it's like it's all timing.
Yes.
It's all timing, and that's what's going to happen on
And
this
it must
season.
be difficult to be on a show where they're like, blasting your personal life from shit that happened over a year ago, but right now you're living in a totally different headspace. So like you're
Absolutely.
answering for things that like you have evolved
You're like,
past.
I don't know him.
Right. But that's kind of always the case, right? Because the show always takes 6, 8 months to kind of cut and then to come out, and then you're like, and then it happens. You're like, guys, that didn't happen yesterday. Like,
Right.
a lot of things have happened since then. And part of the reason that I was so happy to come here today is because it's like I did want to talk about those things, but then really like close the chapter on that and never speak on it again, kind
Yeah.
of thing, and move forward to the new season of Charm that I'm very excited for, and I hope that everyone else is too.
Yeah.
Kind
Well,
of
I've
thing.
made peace with the summer
I
house.
really have. I've totally the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, what are we
No,
talking
it's true.
about?
Like, yeah, totally.
No, and then that's what I thought. No, I'm just gonna stop there.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
Like when
yeah.
it went
Done,
well.
done.
It went well. Just end it. Last question for you: how's your Trop Hop business going?
Oh my gosh! So that is certainly showcased on the show.
Good.
I'm very excited, and obviously I feel blessed that I have the platform that I do to be able to show that. And so what I did was, in a nutshell, I moved production where it was in the upstate of South Carolina, so about 3 hours away. Now it's in downtown Charleston. So
nice.
so I got to go there and film a bunch. I come out with a couple of new beers, and we kind of show the journey,
Oh, cool.
which I think that a lot of people, I like over the years have seen and know that once you try to dive into like the meat and potatoes of it, some people are like, boring.
It's a little boring,
right?
yeah.
Right, of course. So it's like trying to like hit the highlights, and it's like, new beers and like a new production facility, and let's go here on like a guy's trip and see this.
Oh, that's fun.
For this, and
That's cool.
so you'll definitely see some Chop Up stuff, and it's doing wonderfully.
So
Good.
now, since production's near you, when people come to Charleston, can they like do a tasting,
A brewery?
like a brewery
Yes.
excursion? That's like
Yes.
great for
Cool.
the tourists and fans.
Yeah, so I use another brewery to brew my beer, and it's called Palmetto Brewing Company, and so they have all my beer on tap, and that's where they brew it. And so
Oh, that's so
that is
fun.
like ground zero if
Right.
you come to Charleston, and it's right downtown. So
Oh,
if you
that's
want to come to
perfect.
Charleston
And
and
then
drink,
you can go to Craig's store.
And
Are,
then you can
are they
go
close to
right-
each other? I've
yep.
never been
Yep.
to Charleston.
you should come to.
I've been
Charleston.
once.
I know.
It was
I've
really
heard
cute.
I would love it.
You should certainly come to Charleston. Everyone should come to Charleston, but and everyone does come to Charleston,
Yeah, they do.
especially from New York City.
Yeah.
It is like it was a mass exodus down there, but
Yes.
it's like a mile away,
Okay. Oh,
Nice.
very
and
cool.
like a Charleston mile is different than a New York mile.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's like
It's not
you could walk there
traffic
like
for
in
every
15 minutes,
inch.
not like 30 minutes in a car.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being vulnerable and honest with us. We really appreciate your candor. We appreciate you being here. Everyone, if you want to keep up with Austen, follow him on Instagram. Oh, also, we were talking about you before you got here. When are you going to change your Instagram username?
Claudia doesn't like it.
You don't like it.
No, it's like you're like, I get it. When you were like
I know.
a commoner, like you're a celebrity now, and like I'm trying to find your Instagram, and I'm like, where the fuck is Austen
Oh my
Kroll?
gosh, that's funny actually. I never thought about that. And you know who hates it too is Spencer Pratt. He always tells me,
He's
I talk
right.
to him, he's like, dude, just make it at Austen Kroll.
Right, you're building a business, you're
Right,
brand
right, right,
building.
right.
You know what? I kind of like it because it's like you're still that same guy. You haven't. The fame hasn't
That's
changed
true.
you.
That's true.
I just thought it was funny. Like Matthew McConaughey's wiener. I mean, right?
What?
Oh, it's from.
10 things I hate about. No, wait.
No,
what is it?
10 Things I Hate-
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Wait, what's the reference when she names his penis?
She names yeah.
Princess Sophia.
Yeah.
And then he's like, what about something manly like Kroll, the Warrior King?
Oh, you know what?
That's,
I do love a pop culture reference.
That's why. And so a girlfriend of mine back right before the show began was like, I'm going to change mine if you change yours to this. And so we both kind of changed it together. And I've never changed it since.
I like that.
Me
for
too.
you.
After hearing the explanation, I don't hate it as much.
Okay.
I don't.
But maybe I should, right? Because if you don't get the reference, then it makes no sense.
No, it sounds like
at
you're
all.
calling yourself a warrior
I know.
king.
No,
I
it just
know.
sounds like an
Okay,
inside
okay,
joke
fair enough,
from
though.
like before you were
College,
famous, and
right.
like you really like it.
Oh my God, that's funny. Yeah. So
So you're a podcaster now, Pillows and Beers, right?
Yeah.
With Craig. Everyone can catch up with you on there. Follow Kroll the Warrior King on Instagram.
that eye roll.
And thank you so much for being here, Austen. We
Yeah.
really appreciate your presence.
Guys, thank you so much.
And thank you guys for listening. Hope you have an amazing day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.